Hello, Alan Patching back with another post for Transforming Minds, and this time again we're following questions and comments made by followers of the blog, and this is from my past series on the blog. And one of the most common questions I'm asked is about anxieties. There are basically 5 key areas of anxiety with several subtypes, and the reason I say several subtypes is in the previous diagnostic manual put out by the Americans, there was something like 198 mental disorders, and now there's 365. So clearly we're getting specific in the subcategories, etc. But for the most part, in the world of anxiety specifically, there's 5 specific different types of anxiety. Now, one of those types is called specific phobia, and I probably get more questions about phobias than on any other aspect of psychotherapy. And people are sort of saying, how can I get rid of phobias quickly? And the answer is, it is possible with certain techniques from the world of NLP and hypnotherapy, but it really gets down to how you got the phobia in the first place. Now, in my experience, there's 2 basic ways a phobia will develop. It will either develop very quickly from something that happens in your life out of the blue, and you instantly develop the phobia of that thing. For example, if you had a fear of heights, that you used to climb a ladder or something and didn't have a problem, and one day someone took you on a high-rise building, you looked over the edge and it was just so much higher, it was scary. Or maybe you were on a flight, which is a common one, and it went through some turbulence, and up to that time you were fine flying, but all of a sudden it's, oh my God, I don't want to fly again, because the rest of the flight you felt like you might be going to crash or whatever. Public speaking's another one. You used to be able to speak in public, all of a sudden something went wrong, and after that you lost it and felt very nervous every time someone mentioned speaking in public. Now, in that sense, you learnt the fear very quickly, so not guaranteed, but it is possible with certain neurolinguistic and hypnotherapy techniques, you can unlearn it very quickly. And not everybody in the field of psychotherapy and psychology generally learns these techniques. It's specific hypnotherapy and NLP techniques, and they can be very effective. I've had some very good results with them. More likely, most phobias, I think, tend to develop over a period of time. It's said that we're born with 2 basic fears. The fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. And of course that's a bit strange, because you see the father with the child throwing it up in the air and catching it, and the child gets caught and smiles, and the dad said, oh, it's having a good time. But really the kid's going, my God, thank God I got caught, because I had a fear of falling. So we get that one wrong. But there are many other fears that we learn, and it's possible to learn them from other people. So for example, if your mother or father or close adults in your life show a fear of spiders or snakes or whatever, we might very well develop that same fear, because we're learning from them at that early stage when they're the authority figures in our life, and our critical consciousness hasn't developed to the point we can challenge it. So in the case where you've learnt that way, and sometimes for quickly learned phobias, normally there's different techniques for dealing with it. And one technique that I'm asked about a lot is called flooding. And flooding basically says you expose yourself to the very thing that caused the fear, and eventually the fear will be extinguished. Now, the theory behind it is quite simple. It's simply that when we develop a fear for something, it creates in our body a somatic reaction. In other words, we feel the nervousness, we feel the anxiety. So having felt the anxiety, it makes us avoid the thing that we're scared of. And as we avoid it, we're sort of building up the hope. By avoiding it, I didn't get any more anxious, so therefore it must be true that I need to be anxious about it. It's sort of a convoluted emotional logic rather than a logical logic going on inside our brain. However, if we expose ourselves long enough to the situation, and we find out that the fear isn't going to have the effect it was going to have, eventually our brain will just say, got that wrong, and remove the concern. Now, there's a problem with it. Flooding can be very, very uncomfortable in the process, and people with strong phobias won't even expose themselves to the extent of flooding that's necessary to solve the problem. So that being the case, the therapy profession has come up with a different technique for dealing with these sort of phobias, and we call it progressive desensitization. So in our next blog post, I'll explain to you how we deal with phobias using progressive desensitization. So just in summary for now, there are a range of different anxiety disorders. Speaking specifically about phobias, it's a very common concern that people have. Generally they develop in two ways, either very, very quickly, in which case you may respond to an NLP technique called the rapid rewind technique, or to hypnotherapy. And the other way we learn is slowly by watching parents and other significant figures in our life when we're young, before we develop critical consciousness. We could go into a flooded situation and expose ourselves to the source of the fear until it extinguishes. More likely, we're going to do it on a gentle basis, and the technique we use for that is called progressive desensitization, and I'm going to explain that for you in our next post. We'll see you then. For now, I'm Alan Patching. Thanks for watching.